Dame Patricia Routledge is one of the most recognizable faces in British television history, yet she remains one of its most private figures. Loved by millions for her unforgettable role as Hyacinth Bucket in Keeping Up Appearances, she brought laughter into homes around the world. Her sharp timing, controlled delivery, and ability to turn social awkwardness into comedy made her a legend. However, while audiences felt they knew her through her characters, the woman behind the roles carefully kept her personal life out of view. This balance between public success and private living became one of the most defining features of her life and career. Born in 1929 in Birkenhead, England, Patricia Routledge grew up in a modest, working-class household. Her father worked as a tailor, and her mother was a homemaker, and neither had any direct connection to the arts. Acting was not considered a sensible or secure career, especially for a young woman at that time. Stability, routine, and practical jobs were valued far more than creative ambition. Despite this, Patricia showed an early love for reading, language, and storytelling. These interests quietly shaped her future. Even when the path ahead was uncertain and far from glamorous, her academic abilities became clear during her school years, and she eventually went on to study English at the University of Liverpool. It was there, through student drama productions, that she first experienced performing in front of an audience. These early performances were not about fame or money. They were about learning how words worked on stage, how timing affected emotion, and how an actor could hold attention without grand gestures. These lessons would stay with her throughout her career. Even later, when she became famous, she relied more on precision and control than on exaggerated performance. After university, Patricia trained at the Bristol Old Vic Theatre School, a major step toward becoming a professional actress. The training was intense, competitive, and demanding. Many of her classmates came from more privileged backgrounds, with family support and industry connections she did not have. She relied on scholarships and determination to survive this period. There was no safety net. Failure would have meant returning home and starting over. Instead, she pushed forward, developing the discipline and professionalism that later became her trademark. The early years of her career were not easy. Like many actors of her generation, Patricia spent long periods working in repertory theater, moving from town to town, and taking whatever roles were available. The pay was low, the hours were long, and recognition was limited. Yet these years gave her something invaluable: range. She learned comedy, drama, musical performance, and classical theater by doing them repeatedly, night after night, in front of live audiences. This experience shaped her into a versatile performer who could adapt to almost any role. The industry she entered during the 1950s and 1960s was heavily dominated by men. Women were often limited to narrow roles and judged by appearance as much as talent. Patricia did not fit the traditional image of a glamorous star, and this sometimes worked against her. Instead of trying to change herself to meet expectations, she focused on her craft. Over time, this decision earned her respect, particularly through her work with the Royal Shakespeare Company and in musical theater. Her success was slow and steady, built on ability rather than publicity. By the time television began to offer wider opportunities, Patricia was already a seasoned performer. She approached TV carefully, refusing to abandon theater or treat television as a lesser art. This thoughtful balance allowed her to build a career that was respected within the industry long before she became widely famous. What audiences would later see as effortless comedy was, in reality, the result of decades of careful work, discipline, and quiet determination. Patricia Routledge's rise to international recognition came through her work in musical theater. In 1968, she achieved a major milestone by winning a Tony Award in New York for her performance in Darling of the Day. This was not only a personal triumph, but also a moment that established her reputation outside of Britain. She proved she could succeed on both sides of the Atlantic, and that her talent was not confined to television or stage alone. Despite this, she remained deliberate in her choices, continuing to move between classical theater, musicals, and drama instead of settling into one type of performance. This versatility became a hallmark of her career, and one of the reasons she was so highly respected among her peers. By the 1990s, Patricia Routledge had become a household name thanks to the sitcom Keeping Up Appearances. Her portrayal of Hyacinth Bucket, a woman obsessed with social climbing and appearances, captivated audiences both in the UK and internationally. The character was exaggerated, funny, and instantly recognizable. Many viewers assumed that the actress herself shared traits with Hyacinth, but Patricia was careful to separate herself from her role. Behind the laughter, she was private, disciplined, and intensely focused on her craft. The success of the show brought her fame, but it also created a new set of challenges. Being permanently associated with one character could overshadow decades of serious theater work and professional accomplishments. Despite the popularity of Hyacinth, Patricia was never one to compromise her standards for television. She reportedly challenged scripts when she felt that lines or situations pushed the character into unrealistic or cartoonish territory. She demanded credibility even in comedy, believing that humor worked best when grounded in truth. This attention to detail sometimes created tension on set, but it also demonstrated her professionalism and integrity. Unlike many actors who might chase visibility at any cost, Patricia chose to maintain control over her work, ensuring that every role she took felt meaningful and authentic. While fame brought recognition, it also meant that her personal life became a subject of curiosity. Patricia Routledge never married and did not have children, and for decades, she chose to keep these aspects of her life private. This was not because she felt regret or shame, but because she preferred to focus her energy on her work and the causes she cared about. In an era when women in entertainment were often defined by their relationships, she consciously avoided making her private life part of the public story. This decision allowed her to pursue her career fully, maintain independence, and dedicate herself to roles, rehearsals, and performances without compromise. It also protected her from the pressures and scrutiny that come with celebrity culture. The decision to remain single and private was reinforced by her life experiences. Patricia had faced significant personal losses from an early age. She lost her mother when she was in the early stages of her career, and her father passed away later, leaving her without the parental support she had once relied on. Her older brother, who had been a source of advice and grounding, also passed away just before she became famous with keeping up appearances. These losses shaped her understanding of self-reliance and reinforced her commitment to maintaining control over her personal and professional life. Instead of seeking external validation or relying on family networks, she built her life around discipline, focus, and dedication to her craft. Even after stepping away from major television roles, Patricia Routledge continued to engage with the world quietly. She maintained friendships within the theater community, attended performances, and remained active in charitable work. Her involvement in organizations such as the Royal Voluntary Service allowed her to contribute meaningfully while staying connected to the community. This quiet engagement demonstrated that privacy did not equate to isolation. She was never alone. She simply chose how and with whom she interacted. Friends and colleagues spoke of her sharp memory, dry humor, and insightful observations, all of which reflected the life of a woman who remained intellectually and socially active well into her later years. Through all of this, Patricia Routledge remained deliberate in her career choices. She walked away from keeping up appearances at the height of its popularity, not out of conflict or scandal, but because she wanted to preserve her long-term artistic integrity. She valued the freedom to choose roles that inspired her rather than those dictated by public expectation. This decision highlighted her belief that a successful career is not measured solely by fame or visibility, but by the quality and satisfaction of the work itself. After leaving Keeping Up Appearances, Patricia Routledge entered a quieter phase of her career. While she stepped away from regular television appearances, she did not retire from acting entirely. Instead, she chose to focus on what she loved most, theater. For Patricia, the live stage was where her creativity and passion truly flourished. She attended performances, followed new productions, and supported colleagues in the acting world. Even without cameras pointed at her, she remained deeply connected to the craft that had defined her life. This choice reflected her understanding that fame and visibility were not necessary for fulfillment. The joy of performance and the satisfaction of mastery were enough. Her decision to step away from the spotlight also fueled curiosity among fans and the media. People wondered whether she had grown tired of acting or whether personal struggles were behind her retreat. Some speculated that she might be lonely, given that she never married or had children. Over time, these assumptions became part of her public narrative. Yet, those close to her knew a very different truth. Patricia maintained meaningful relationships, stayed in touch with friends and colleagues, and engaged in charitable work. She contributed to organizations such as the Royal Voluntary Service, supporting causes connected to older adults, community care, and education. These activities kept her socially active and provided a sense of purpose outside of the public eye. Even in later life, Patricia's reputation for professionalism remained strong. Friends and colleagues frequently remarked on her meticulous attention to detail, her sharp memory, and her unwavering commitment to performance. She followed theater closely, discussing plays with the same insight she had displayed decades earlier. Her love for storytelling and understanding of timing and delivery never faded, showing that stepping away from television did not mean stepping away from her craft. In fact, she continued to inspire those around her, proving that a fulfilling career can be measured by dedication and passion rather than public visibility. Patricia Routledge's private life, carefully guarded for decades, naturally drew attention. Questions about her personal choices, remaining single, not having children, persisted throughout her career. In interviews, she often answered calmly, explaining that her life had simply followed a path shaped by her dedication to acting. She never framed her choices as sacrifices or regrets. Instead, she emphasized independence and purpose, describing how fulfillment came from her work, her relationships with friends, and her involvement in charitable projects. Her calm acceptance of her lifestyle highlighted her wisdom and self-understanding. By prioritizing her craft and values, she maintained control over the narrative of her own life. The rumors that circulated about her later years were often exaggerated. Some claimed she had lived in isolation or been cut off from family and friends. Others suggested that stepping away from television meant she had faded away entirely. In reality, Patricia had deliberately chosen a quieter life, one in which she could focus on the things that mattered most to her. She valued privacy but was far from disconnected. The relationships she nurtured, the charitable work she undertook, and the artistic engagement she maintained all demonstrated that she remained vibrant, involved, and socially connected. Stepping back from fame also allowed her to make decisions about her life on her own terms. She avoided the pressures of publicity and the expectations of a global audience, which gave her freedom to focus on quality over quantity. She could choose projects that aligned with her interests, take the time to mentor younger actors, and enjoy personal pursuits without scrutiny. This control over her own life reflected a deep understanding of both herself and the industry she had long been part of. In this sense, Patricia's later years were not marked by absence or retreat, but by deliberate and thoughtful engagement on her own terms. The distinction between public reception and reality became particularly clear in her handling of rumors and speculation. While fans and media created stories about loneliness, disengagement, or regret, those who knew her described a life full of connection, activity, and meaning. Patricia Routledge's legacy is defined not only by her roles on stage and screen, but also by the way she lived, privately, deliberately, and with dignity. Her example demonstrates that success is not solely measured by visibility or fame, but by mastery of one's craft, the depth of relationships, and the ability to live life according to one's own values. Even as speculation about her personal life persisted, Patricia Routledge remained composed and consistent in her choices. Throughout her career and into her later years, she rarely addressed rumors directly, preferring instead to let her work speak for itself. This decision to maintain privacy created a gap that the public often filled with assumptions. Some claimed she had health issues that forced her into seclusion, while others suggested she had lost touch with colleagues or friends. Yet those closest to her consistently described a very different reality. She remained healthy enough to engage with the world on her own terms, stayed socially active, and maintained a sharp mind and sense of humor that never diminished. One key aspect of her later life was her continued involvement in charitable work. Organizations such as the Royal Voluntary Service benefited greatly from her support, which went far beyond ceremonial appearances. She participated in planning events, mentoring volunteers, and advocating for causes she cared deeply about, particularly those supporting older people, education, and community services. This engagement provided a structure and social connection that contrasted sharply with the image of isolation suggested by some rumors. Even without a public-facing role, Patricia Routledge had a life full of interaction, purpose, and contribution, in addition to charity. Her connection to theater remained strong. She attended performances regularly, discuss productions with colleagues, and offer advice or insight when sought. Theater was more than a profession for her. It was a lifelong passion and a source of joy. Her attention to detail and her understanding of performance continued to influence younger actors and theater professionals who admired her skill, discipline, and integrity. Even after stepping away from television, she remained a respected figure in theater circles, where her opinions carried weight and her dedication was acknowledged. In this way, she balanced her desire for privacy with her commitment to the art form she loved. Her handling of fame and the public eye offers important lessons about boundaries and self-respect. Many actors feel pressure to stay visible, share personal information, or participate in media narratives to maintain relevance. Patricia Routledge approached her career differently. She understood that she could retain artistic integrity while controlling how much of herself she revealed. Choosing not to marry, not to have children, and to prioritize her craft were all decisions that gave her autonomy, allowing her to navigate both professional challenges and personal life without compromise. Her choices were not about defiance or rebellion. They were about living authentically, according to her values and priorities. The public fascination with her personal life also speaks to a broader issue: society's tendency to conflate on-screen personas with private individuals. Fans of Keeping Up Appearances often assume Patricia Routledge shared traits with Hyacinth Bucket, or that her off-screen life mirrored the exaggerated social climbing of her character. The contrast between audience expectations and the reality of her private life made her an object of endless speculation. Yet she managed this with remarkable composure, never allowing false narratives to define her or dictate her behavior. Instead, she focused on what mattered most: her craft, her friendships, and her contributions to society. By choosing discretion over exposure, Patricia maintained control over her legacy. Her retirement from television did not mean disengagement from life or art. It was a deliberate step that allowed her to preserve the integrity of her career while continuing to pursue personal satisfaction. Rather than chasing fleeting fame or yielding to external pressures, she crafted a life that balanced professional achievement with personal fulfillment. The rumors about her health, her relationships, and her daily life often reflected assumptions rather than facts, highlighting how little public perception can capture the full complexity of a private life carefully managed and deliberately lived. Through this approach, Patricia Routledge demonstrated that a meaningful life does not require constant public attention or adherence to conventional expectations. Her career achievements, her awards, and her international recognition are all significant, but equally important is how she lived. With independence, clarity, and a focus on purpose. She exemplified the idea that privacy can coexist with professional success, that personal choices can be deliberate rather than reactive, and that one can remain connected and active without being constantly visible. In doing so, she created a model of professionalism, dignity, and thoughtful living that continues to inspire actors and audiences alike. As Dame Patricia Routledge moved further from the public spotlight, her later years became a reflection of the life she had carefully crafted. Rather than fading into obscurity, she embraced a form of retirement that allowed her to stay connected to the arts while maintaining the privacy she valued. Her retreat from television was not motivated by disappointment or ill health. It was a conscious choice to step away from the relentless demands of public visibility. The schedules, media attention, and repetitive publicity cycles that often accompany success were no longer appealing. Instead, she focused on the things that brought her satisfaction: theater, conversation, learning, and meaningful relationships. Her retirement demonstrated a remarkable balance between withdrawal from the spotlight and active engagement with life. Patricia Routledge remained deeply interested in theater, attending performances whenever possible and keeping up with emerging talent. She spoke thoughtfully about productions, often providing observations that revealed both her experience and her continued love for performance. This involvement allowed her to remain connected to the creative world without sacrificing her autonomy. By choosing which events to attend and when to participate, she maintained a life structured around personal enjoyment and professional integrity rather than external expectations. Charity work continued to play a central role in her later life. Through organizations such as the Royal Voluntary Service, she contributed time, attention, and energy to causes that were important to her. Whether mentoring younger volunteers, supporting community initiatives, or advocating for older adults, her engagement reflected commitment to making a difference in tangible ways. While the public might have assumed she had withdrawn completely, those close to her knew she was actively shaping the world around her, quietly but meaningfully. This period highlights an important distinction. Privacy does not equal isolation, and disengagement from media does not mean disengagement from life. The clarity of her personal choices also shaped her enduring legacy. By prioritizing her career and independence, she lived a life free from compromise in areas that mattered most to her. Remaining unmarried and without children, Patricia chose autonomy over societal expectation, demonstrating that fulfillment comes in many forms. She made decisions based on her passions, interests, and values rather than conforming to external pressures. Her calm approach to fame and her refusal to exploit personal stories for attention ensured that her legacy will be defined by her talent, professionalism, and integrity rather than gossip or sensationalism. This careful management of both career and personal life also reinforced the respect she earned from colleagues. Actors, writers, directors, and producers admired her for her discipline, exacting standards, and dedication to quality. She was known for her ability to enhance production without overshadowing others, and for the generosity with which she shared her knowledge. These qualities ensured that she remained influential long after leaving mainstream television. Through mentorship, example, and quiet advocacy, she continued to shape the arts and inspire future generations of performers. Her life offers lessons not only for those in the entertainment industry, but for anyone seeking to live deliberately. Patricia Routledge exemplifies how success, recognition, and personal fulfillment can coexist with discretion and privacy. She showed that one can achieve global fame yet maintain control over personal life, that one can step back from the public eye while remaining socially engaged and intellectually active, and that one can leave a lasting impact without constantly seeking attention. By focusing on quality, consistency, and purpose, she created a model of professionalism and thoughtful living that will endure. In summary, Dame Patricia Routledge's later years were neither lonely nor idle. They were a continuation of the principles she had demonstrated throughout her life: independence, commitment, and passion for her craft. Her retirement from television did not signify an end, but a deliberate shift in focus, prioritizing what mattered most. She remained connected to the arts, to friends, and to causes she valued, all while maintaining the privacy that allowed her to navigate fame on her own terms. This careful balance between visibility and discretion, ambition and autonomy, is what made her life remarkable, not just as an actress, but as a person who lived with clarity, dignity, and purpose. Dame Patricia Routledge's impact on British television, theater, and global audiences cannot be overstated. She became a cultural icon not just because of her talent, but because she embodied professional ethos that was rare in her generation. Her portrayal of Hyacinth Bucket in Keeping Up Appearances remains one of the most memorable in comedy history, resonating with audiences across decades and continents. Yet the significance of her work goes beyond laughter. Through her performances, she showcased the importance of precision, timing, and authenticity. Every gesture, intonation, and expression reflected her careful attention to detail, and her ability to balance comedy with human insight set her apart from her contemporaries. Beyond her characters, her life story offers a powerful lesson in personal integrity and self-determination. While fame often pressures performers to compromise their values or overexpose their personal lives, Patricia Routledge remained steadfast. She understood that her worth as an actress was not tied to public scrutiny or celebrity gossip. Instead, she defined herself through the quality of her work and her commitment to the craft. In doing so, she demonstrated that it is possible to achieve both professional success and personal satisfaction without sacrificing either. Her careful management of fame illustrates how boundaries can empower rather than restrict, allowing individuals to pursue excellence while maintaining privacy. Her approach also highlights the evolving role of women in entertainment during the 20th century. Patricia entered the industry at a time when opportunity for women were limited and often shaped by societal expectations. Women were frequently expected to compromise professional ambitions for domestic life, and typecasting was common. By prioritizing her craft and independence, she defied these norms. Her decisions not to marry or have children were not made for shock value or rebellion, but from a desire to live a life aligned with her priorities. In doing so, she paved the way for future generations of performers to understand that fulfillment can take many forms, and that personal choices should be guided by authenticity rather than convention. The rumors surrounding her later life, claims of isolation, ill health, or regret, underscore the challenges of public perception. Audiences often assumed that her retreat from television meant she was disconnected or lonely. In reality, she remained socially engaged, mentally sharp, and creatively active. Through charitable work, theater involvement, and strong personal relationships, she demonstrated that a life lived with intentionality does not require constant public validation. Her story challenges a common assumption that visibility equates to relevance or that privacy implies emptiness. Instead, it shows that one can live a meaningful, full life while remaining selective about when and how to be seen. Cultural memory of Patricia Routledge will always be intertwined with Hyacinth Bucket, yet her broader contributions to theater and performance are equally vital. Her career exemplifies versatility, professionalism, and dedication across multiple mediums, from Shakespearean theater to musical performance and televised comedy. She earned awards, critical acclaim, and the admiration of colleagues while maintaining the autonomy to shape her own path. This balance between recognition and self-determination is a key part of her legacy and one that resonates in a world where public attention can be overwhelming and distracting. Finally, Patricia Routledge's life is an inspiring model of how to navigate both professional achievement and personal fulfillment. She shows that it is possible to excel without compromising personal values, to enjoy success without becoming consumed by public expectations, and to live a rich, meaningful life while maintaining privacy. Her story reminds audiences and aspiring performers alike that excellence is rooted in discipline, persistence, and authenticity. It also demonstrates that the choices we make about how we live, our priorities, our boundaries, and our commitments can define our legacy as much as our accomplishments. Dame Patricia Routledge leaves behind a life of remarkable artistry, unwavering integrity, and thoughtful self-direction. She proved that fame does not have come at the cost of privacy, that visibility is not a requirement for relevance, and that a life guided by passion and principles can be profoundly fulfilling. For audiences around the world, she will always be remembered as the incomparable Hyacinth Bucket. But for those who knew her and for the legacy she left behind, she was much more: a disciplined artist, a thoughtful friend, and a woman who lived life on her own terms. Her story will continue to inspire performers and admirers for generations, illustrating that success, dignity, and personal fulfillment can coexist beautifully as we reflect on Dame Patricia Routledge's life. It becomes clear that her story is about far more than the character she played or the award she received. It is a story of choice, resilience, and deliberate living. She navigated fame and artistic achievement on her own terms, demonstrating that a life of creativity does not need to come at the cost of personal freedom or privacy. Throughout her career, she resisted the pressures to conform to public expectations, choosing instead to define her path through discipline, professionalism, and a deep love for her craft. Her decisions, both in her career and personal life, reflect a wisdom rarely seen in the entertainment industry, especially in an era when public scrutiny was often relentless and invasive. Her retirement from television illustrates her commitment to autonomy. While many might equate stepping away from the screen with the end of a career, Patricia reframed this transition as a natural shift rather than a loss. She did not abandon acting. She redirected her focus toward theater, mentorship, and charitable work. This move highlights an important lesson about success. It is not simply about visibility